Well, good morning and welcome to Integrative Preparedness. How are you all today? I'm Steve Smith, and we're going to talk a little bit today about lessons from the IRA, and I don't mean your retirement plan. As some of you know, I spent years involved in the fight, the struggle for Irish independence and unity and such as that, and I've talked a little bit about this over on the Patreon channel. I've talked about the importance of understanding the lessons that come from the struggle in Ireland, the historical struggle, and the more current struggle, even before the Good Friday agreements. And I'll say right off here that the freedom of those, and I know this is going to be very controversial. Well, it's not going to be controversial among those who know the truth about things, but isn't that always the case? It's usually controversial because of those who don't know or who know wrong information, who have believed the history they've been taught, much like our own war of northern aggression here. But those who live in a free Republic of Ireland right now owe their freedom to the IRA, to the predecessors of the IRA, to the Irish Republican Brotherhood, to go back there. I won't delve into a lot of the history here. I've done it over on Patreon, and I'm going to do it again. And those who live in the north of Ireland, which is mistakenly called Northern Ireland, I'm going to tell you a couple of stories about that in a minute. They owe now they don't have complete freedom as of yet. They still live under a governmental and sectarian apartheid in many ways, and most people don't know about that. But they owe the great freedoms that they've gained over the last 30, 40 years, 50 years, to the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, and the INLA, the Irish, what's it called? I had to remember, I just so used to calling it INLA, Irish National Liberation Army. Those were offshoots. I won't go into that in detail. I will go into that over on Patreon. I have a kind of a surprise, well, not a surprise, whatever. I have some special stuff that I'm going to put up for those over on Patreon, and it's 5 songs. These are the songs that are central to the Irish struggle, to the Irish history, and to, these are the songs that when you go into bars in Ireland, or pubs, or locals, these are the songs that you'll hear picked up all of the time. Oh, I should say, I forgot, I am so sorry. It just reminded me, remember that all of these videos are brought to you by the Stonemont series, my books, The Reversion, The Revival, The Renewal, An Appeal to Heaven, The Blessings of Freedom, and the brand new one that's kicking it, Hostages to Fortune. They're available on Amazon in Kindle or paperback. And the latest one, Hostages to Fortune, is available in hardback. The others aren't yet. Or you can get the paperbacks from me autographed. And the links on how to do all of that is down below, and it'll be well worth it. If you don't have them yet and you're serious about preparedness, you should have them, and you'll learn a lot, and you'll enjoy the story. So anyway, getting back to this, what I've put up over here. By the way, I was awakened today. It started, my St. Patrick's Day was started off with a phone call from a good Irish brother, George. George, here's to you. He is a fighter, and he's one. I'll tell you stories about George sometime. He's an old Bashida kind of guy. Excellent. One of the people. I mention him in a couple of my books. Excellent guy. He's one of those brothers that you'll go to and you'll never doubt. And then later on, I'm going to go shooting with another Irish brother, Mark, that you all have seen on here. So anyway, I'm going to talk about the lessons, and they are important lessons here that we can learn from the IRA. Now, for those of you who haven't been properly educated in this, you've probably been told that the IRA was a bunch of traitors and the other T word that I probably shouldn't say on here because we'll get all, and you've been told that, and you believe that because, or some believe that because that's what the British government wanted you to, and then it got in the news, and then the American government, repeated it. And remember, the British called them traitors and the T word, just like they called George Washington and all of those traitors and the T word. So the truth is different than many of you have heard, and the truth will set you free. Now, I've put up 5 songs over on the Patreon channel. If you're not with us there, you should be. And not just for this, but for all the additional preparedness information. I'm going to tell you about this, then I'm going to mention a little bit about the preparedness lessons we can learn from the IRA. The first one I put up over there was The Foggy Dew. I put up the rendition by Sinead O'Connor and the Chieftains. It's a great rendition. It puts in some clips from the movie Michael Collins, and it will direct you, if you're not familiar with the history of Ireland, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, the Easter Rising, the War of Independence, the Irish Civil War, what preceded that as far as the famine, 800 years of British oppression. Don't worry, I won't talk for 800 years. These songs will give you a direction to start looking into it. So when you listen to these songs, let it spur your curiosity and look into the background of these. The next one is Come Out You Black and Tans. That is the standard. I mean, everybody, you walk into a bar over in Ireland, and pretty soon that's going to get going, because so many of the bars over there, they got to pick up, they'll have one guy with a guitar or a little trio or a double or 2 people, one playing the tin whistle and another playing a guitar, or somebody on a borin or whatever. And it's just, it's an amazing culture. The next is Fields of Athenry, and it's the most beautiful rendition I've ever heard. It's from Glenn and Ronan, and they just sing in a gem, and it's about, it tells the story about a young man who was put on a prison ship and sent to Australia because he tried to steal some, the reference is you stole Trevelyan's corn so that the young might see the morn. It was stealing food to try to feed a starving family and put on a prison ship. Some of my family came over to the United States on a coffin ship, and that was in the 1840s. And of course, then later on, the prison ships, where the coffin ships came to America, the prison ships, for the most part, went to Australia. Read about it. You'll learn a lot. The next one after that is Grace, a beautiful song by, well, I won't tell you what the story's about. It's one of the most poignant and heartbreaking, beautiful songs that gives you the history, or will lead you in a direction of the history of oppression in Ireland. Why do I keep talking about oppression? I think you all know. It's sung by Aaron Sands and Damien Quinn, and Damien Quinn is a big folk singer over in Ireland, and Aaron Sands is the granddaughter of Bobby Sands. If you're not familiar with who Bobby Sands is, and you're really interested in preparedness, and at first you'll say, well, how does this have to do with preparedness? That's where you have to put on your thinking cap. If you really want to understand resistance, real resistance against oppression, the story of Bobby Sands is important to know and understand. And then the Soldiers song, it's kind of the national anthem of Ireland, and it's about the IRA. And finally, I put up a beautiful rendition of The Parting Glass, sung by a women's choir from Wisconsin. I don't remember the name of it, but anyway. And they're singing at a bar in Derry called Pater O'Donnell's. If you'll notice, I read my list out of my new Stonemont notebook. Did I mention that those who buy the entire set of paperbacks from me, and the way to do it's down there, get a free copy of the Stonemont notebook. So they sing it at a bar named Pater O'Donnell's. I loved Pater O'Donnell's. One time when I was in Derry, I tell a story about when I was in Pater O'Donnell's with some IRA guys, and it's a funny story, and it has to do with. Well, I won't tell you what it has to do with. I've told it over on Patreon. Maybe I'll tell it again over there another time. Those are the things that I just keep on Patreon. I don't put them out on YouTube for the whole world to see. So what are the lessons of the IRA? And they are lessons. The first thing that I would say is there was a dedicated commonality of purpose, which led to extreme unity and loyalty. Okay, we don't have that here. We don't have it here. Several years ago, when I first started this channel, so many people would come on here. And that was the time that everything was about gun rights, and we still have people screaming about this. And I'm not saying that it's not important. I don't think that there should, the old saying shall not be infringed. I am 100% there. I don't think there ought to be any limits outside of what the family puts on it. And well, Steve, does that mean age? Yes, that does mean age. If I think my 12-year-old should be able to, to carry, then he's going to be able to, he should be able to carry. It's up to me, not the government, and not some whiny ass lib. But we don't have the unity here. We have a lot of people jumping up and screaming and hollering and complaining and whining. But there is not the unity. And I know every time one of these gun things comes along, everybody gets all stirred up. I saw many years, I saw back in the 70s how our government was designing greater oppression of the citizenry. Okay, so this is nothing new to me, and I've been working against. I saw it while I was working for the government, and didn't like it and fought against it in there, and would not do what the government. That's why I never became a general. We didn't have generals in police. I'm just being funny, but I never made big rank because I wouldn't do what they wanted me to do. There was a certain thing called the Constitution that restricted us. And I worked within that, and there was a higher law of human decency, I think, that directs us, and that got my butt in more than one crack. And so what? I always felt good about going home at night. But I saw the increase of the oppression beginning clear back in the 70s. And we might even say, at the end of the Vietnam War. That's probably when it all started. But anyway, several years ago, when I started talking about the importance of learning how to and developing the ability to live under oppression, I got the most, well, I won't characterize them, but I got a lot of comments about, I'm not going to live under oppression. Anybody who talks about living under oppression isn't a real American, and he's not, I'm going to fight on my doorstep. If they pass one more law, I'm going to war, and I'm going to be out there, and you know what? I never saw that any of them did. The Irish became experts at living under oppression and living pretty darn good lives. I mean, except when they were being killed and starved and thrown in prison. Okay, so there's that. But other than that, they had lives that they were tight in their families, they were tight in their religion, they were tight in their communities, they were tight in their churches. And as a result of that very strong unity brought upon by a commonality of purpose and commonality of oppression, they were able to be very successful. And while the struggle went on for a long time, and a lot of bad things happened there, like I said before, the freedom, the Irish Republic, the Republic of Ireland now was only established as a result of this. And it wasn't just armed resistance. It was political resistance. It was community resistance. It was community support for the armed and the political resistance. There was such tightness within, and there often is. Well, no, I would say there are plenty of oppressed societies that you don't see that, and that's why the Irish situation is so important to look at. It did bring them together. If you've watched any of there are some fairly good movies out there. I didn't think to put down a list of the movies. You know, Michael Collins is it's a Hollywood movie, and there's some right things and some wrong things. You know, go watch that. That's a good one. The Wind That Shakes the Barley. There are some others. Maybe I'll come back and when I think of them. That are good representations of some of the things that happened. But anyway, so that is one of the first things, that when there is a great enough oppression to unify the population or a large segment of the population, so that their efforts are solidified, their resistance is solidified, and their efforts are solidified. And their strength came from their community and their families. And so that's what I talk about here. That's what I talk about in my books. How did Stonemont become? How did Stonemont become what it was? Well, it came about because of a family, a prepared family, who regardless of what happened as the world crashed around them, held to the basic principles contained, not necessarily in the Constitution, but the Articles of Confederation, the Bill of Rights, but more importantly, in the biblical concepts. As a matter of fact, when they come about looking for laws and rules by which to run things on, they come up with two things, the Ten Commandments and the Golden Rule. And so it was established by a family that then others were drawn to or came to for support or whatever, and it developed a very, very tight community, a core of a community around which the rest of a larger community developed as long as they lived according to the precepts set down by the core, okay? So that's what this whole saga is about. But it comes down to solidarity, unity, solidarity, common purpose, common belief. And that's really what we're missing in our country. Even those who sit up say, well, things have got to change, things have got, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of people, almost half the country, or maybe a third of the country, who thinks that things are going terribly and things need to be changed. As long as they try to change them politically, we're going to continue to have that pendulum back and forth and back and forth. Good times, bad times. But it's not yet to the point to where it's been, till the oppression has gotten so great that a general unification will occur. I think that, well, I don't know. I was going to say the new central bank digital currency situation might drive that. And I'm going to do another one on that. I thought about doing it today until Brother George awakened me with my Happy St. Patrick's Day call, and he said, and that made me realize, I need to be doing this one today. So who knows if that will drive it. But this is why nothing is going to be changed here in the United States for the foreseeable future, which means that that oppression will continue and will grow. So that's why I had said before, and so I think that actually our audience here on this channel has developed to the point where I think most of everyone here understands this. That's why I made those videos some time ago about the importance of learning how to live well under oppression. You know, your choice is either to die on your doorstep, which those who claimed that they would didn't, you know. And I wouldn't do that either. I'm not going to risk my family. You know what? To stand up against insurmountable odds? You know, this is not a video game, guys. I'm going to do the best for my family in all times. And I'm sure you will too. But anyway, this is why, you know, when I talked about the importance of living under oppression, I used the Irish as one, and I used the Italian mafia, the original mafia, not what it's become now. And I talked about that on Patreon as the prime examples of how to develop those abilities to live under an oppressive system and still live well. Those are important skills and knowledge sets to have. So I think we are going farther, and what happens here in the United States, we will see. But it's happening. It's happening incrementally, and we've talked about, my gosh, how many things are happening. They're coming at us right and left and right and left. That's true. But each one of those things gives us a chance to kind of check ourselves and say, okay, how are we dealing with that? Are we dealing with that okay? And if you are, good, then you have prepared in that area, okay? Go back to our situation. We lost our jobs because we wouldn't take that Fauci, you know? Well, were we able to survive? Yes, because I had taken, you know, steps to ensure that we were prepared to lose jobs, okay? So, you know, every time something comes along, is it a food shortage? How are you doing? If you're doing well, you prepared, and it increases your understanding of the importance of that preparedness. You know, a lot of times people go through that, they spend a lot of time and money on preparedness, and they think, gosh, if I feel kind of silly, you know. I mean, what if I'm wrong? What if nothing happens and life just goes along just fine and I don't need all this stuff? In my first book, The Reversion, Jim, the lead character, Jim kind of says that himself. It says, you know, when he was putting in his Faraday bunker, he kind of felt like, you know, he didn't know if he was being silly or not. You know, what if it was never needed, all that time and money spent on that, but when the world came crashing down, he was glad that he had. And so some of these things that have happened recently, it shows us, yes, your preparations were important. You were smart to do it. Those who didn't, those who struggled or were going into Quick Trip for extra napkins when they couldn't get toilet paper, started seeing the you know, the importance of preparing. And I think that that's why the preparedness world is growing so much now. I see so much growing in the suburbs and the exurbs and things like that. And those people are a lot of them are extremely prepared, and people don't realize that. So anyway, I think that's what I wanted to say here, is that as we continue to move down this path of increasing oppression, it is important to learn how to function well under that oppression until we're able to come out the other end, okay? You know, simply refusing to address it, I think, is short-sighted and stupid. So these are the things, and I'll be talking more about this over on the Patreon channel, and that's where I do this stuff. And I've already put up all of these songs that I talked about that are over there Go on over. If you're not with us on Patreon, we'd love to have you because you get so much over there. You get information, and our people are so bright. Our patrons over there are just the sharpest of the bunch. You'll learn a lot from them, and you'll get some entertainment. So happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you. Remember and hold it to you how important your liberty is, how important your freedom is. But while you're doing that, make sure that you are preparing to live well under increasing oppression. And there is no better example on how to do it than the IRA, the Irish Republican movement. And I'll leave it at that. Hope you learn from it, enjoy it. You all have a great St. Patrick's Day. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.